All right, I think I'm live now. How's it going? Hey, everybody, it's Michael Fair from filmfestivalcircuit.com. And today I'm going to talk about something that I keep seeing over and over and over. I want to give filmmakers some tips about, and that is creating a director statement or a writer statement, or a director statement or a writer statement for your submission. I started film festivals back in 2008 as a festival director, and the same problems that we were having back then are the same problems that we're having now. Most people don't really know what the director statement is used for, what it is, or why it's even important. And to be honest with you, I didn't really know that back in the day either. I started out as a filmmaker in the 2000s, and created a submission, a comedy film, and I sent it to a bunch of festivals. Back then, we had DVDs. I would write, with ink, a Sharpie on a white DVD label and send it into film festivals with no information, no synopsis, no package, no poster, no nothing, just a payment and a tracking number, and I'd send off my movie. And that didn't always turn out well, because you're being constantly compared to other people who are, submitting and basically, competing with you at the time of submission. And when you have a stack of submissions that you're looking through, and some of them are incomplete and some of them aren't. Let me give you an analogy. Can you imagine if you were applying to college and there was a blank that said, please list your activities, and another blank that said, please list the athletic events that you participated in. And another thing said, please write a paragraph about why you want to attend this school, right? Can you imagine if you just filled out none of that? You couldn't imagine, just, yeah, just skip it. Hey, here's my grades, here's my name, accept me. Um, and you would never do that in a million years, because you want to give the people who are considering every opportunity to accept you. You want them to put your best foot forward, right? And the same is for film festivals. You want to get in, you got to package your film or your screenplay very, very well. In other videos, I've talked about the importance of a synopsis and a tagline and a poster and a trailer and all those things. And today, the director statement, writer statement is what I'm going to talk about. The director statement or writer statement is basically a statement of your motivation for making this particular film or screenplay. Okay. It's not something that you copy and paste and just put it on all your submissions, no matter what, whether it's a film or a screenplay. It's not a great statement from John F. Kennedy or Orson Welles or something like that, where you're just like, ask not what your country can do for you, but what you can do for your country. You're not a philosopher. Okay. The director statement, the writer statement are an explanation of your personal motivation to do something, personal motivation to make this project. Now, you may be saying to yourself, "Well, Michael, I'm not the director of my film, but I'm the person who's submitting it and getting it out there. The director's moved on." That's okay. If you don't have access to a director statement, then a producer statement is great. A producer just explaining why they wanted to make sure this project got finished. Like, what does it mean? Um, an actor statement, if you're an actor in something, and basically, why did you take that role? Right? It's very important. I took this role because, right? People want to know, and you can keep it 100 words or less. Don't write a whole 1,000-word essay, all right, on your director statement and your writer statement. You're going to bore people insane. But a good 100 words is very, very effective. And let me give you an example of what I'm talking about. One time we got this film submitted to us. This is about 7 or 8 years ago at the Austin Comedy Film Festival. And this particular person created a film, and they did it in the style of the 1920s, 1930s, where it's like old Charlie Chaplin, black and white. You couldn't hear any voices or dialogue. You'd see the people like looking at each other and motioning at each other and miming at each other. And then you'd see a black screen, the text would come up and it'd say, "Hello, how are you today?" And it would go back to the people. And the video was kind of sped up, and it was old timey looking. And we all know what those how the films were being produced in 100 years ago, right? Well, we had a film submission like that. It was like 6 minutes. It was cute. It was okay. It seemed like the actors were into it. It was all right. And I was sitting with a group of judges, and they're like, I don't really know why we would accept this, because it's really not all that funny. It's cute. It's not all that funny. And why would they choose this style? I mean, everybody else is taking all the time to shoot with all these lenses and tell stories and do all these things, all this music and all these actors and these locations and everything. And here's two people on a park bench and the black and white video going on. Like, what are we doing here? And one of the judges pointed out to me, they said, "Hey, Michael, why don't you look down at the director's statement area and see why they made this film?" Where the filmmaker had created this film because it was either a friend or a family member had recently gone deaf, lost their hearing. And they were inspired to make a film, and they challenged themselves to make a film that their friend or family member could enjoy, in the same way that everybody else enjoys equally, right? So that you read what's going on. It's an entirely visual medium. And we didn't know that, and the director statement, they were apparently very, very passionate about this, and made you look at the entire film with new eyes and a fresh, you know, perspective on, this filmmaker's project. And so looking back at that, we were like, you know what? That's actually pretty cool. That film got accepted, had a pretty good score. I mean, it wasn't 100%, but had a pretty good score. And when we had the film introductions at the beginning, where the person comes up and accepts their award certificate and they introduce their film at the film festival live on stage, and then we show the films afterwards. um, when the film played, man, people were like in tears. It meant a lot to them. It was funny to them, to hear the director's story. They went and they talked to them, and it generated interest in the film. And that filmmaker was inspired with all the great feedback, and they went on to make several movies for people specifically with disabilities. That was like their career. And that just goes to show you that sometimes when you put it in context, it really helps. This is how the process works. A judge sits down to review a film or a screenplay. The first thing they do is they don't press play. And the first thing they do is not start reading the actual screenplay. The first thing they do is they look at the submission. Where's it coming from? They're looking at what the synopsis is, looking at the tagline, they're looking at the presentation of the poster, like how does it look? They might even glance at the trailer just to see how it is, say, okay, kind of like mentally preparing myself for this. And we always love it when you get a director statement or a writer statement, because putting a film in context is really, really helpful before you watch it instead of trying to learn this stuff afterwards, like we were doing in the example that I just had. So it's really important to know what the process is. Here's another thing about the process you may not know. If a judge has 4 months to watch 100 movies or 4 months to read 100 screenplays, you start to lose track. You go back and you depend on your notes. And in your notes, sometimes you refer back to the original submission form of the filmmaker to jog your memory. Because when you're rating things, you can't accept everybody. We might accept only the top 20 or 30% of films or screenplays. And so going back and reviewing and making sure you're not leaving out a great one, making sure the scores are accurate. Maybe you get an idea of like what the entire field is, and you start to, score things and say, you know what, this is fantastic in this area. This is weak in this area. You start to compare. It's a comparison game. You're always being compared to the people you're submitting with in the exact same pool. The submission forms that are the most complete are the most helpful because they have the most information that can jog your memory about what's going on, right? With that particular film or screenplay. So it always helps to have all your assets and to be complete and not to be that person that has just didn't care, mailed it in, like dummy Mike here, sign a DVD and send it in with nothing, like it's a piece of trash. If I'm treating it like it's a piece of trash, why should the judges care, right? And of course, if your movie is absolutely just drop dead fantastic, the judges are going to be like, okay, this is pretty amazing. I'm not saying that the marketing is everything, but when the pool is tight and the competition is tight, when the margins are small, you don't want to lose points or just be not memorable just because you just didn't care to fill out your submission form. Is all I'm trying to say. So let me run down these 5 reasons for you, and you know, just keep these in mind. Make your director statement, your writer statement, and always put it on your film submission form, whether it's on Film Freeway, or filmfestivalcircuit.com, wherever the case may be. It should be consistent everywhere for that particular project and should be customized to that particular project. Unlike a bio is different, but your statement needs to be about that particular project. 5 reasons. Number one, it explains why you made the film. This is very important. Explains motivations for creating it. Every judge wants to know why you created it. Okay. Number two, it helps the judges understand your creative choices. So if there's things in the film that are unique, time periods, costumes, or maybe the subject matter that's happening, maybe you were inspired because of an event. I mean, we've had films where they wrote the film because they used to be homeless. They wrote the film because they used to be in prison. They wrote the film because they had a hard time in school. They wrote the film because they had some adversity as a child at home. They wrote the film because they overcame a disability. They wrote the film because they had a friend that was they lost because of an illness. People write a film because there was a super funny situation at a bachelor party that they held for a friend, a legendary story. Or they wrote the film because there's a memory with someone who's passed on. Grandpa passed away and they went to the baseball game as kids. Whatever the case may be, your creative choices of your locations and your costumes and all those things, it really sets that up. Number three, it makes your film more memorable. Okay. If you got 17 films that were about blind dates and your film is called Blind Date and you don't have a synopsis, a tagline, come on, right? What do you think is going to happen? You might get lost in the sauce. if you're so similar to everyone else, but yet you forgot all your information, right? And then number four, this would probably be number one, but your film submission form, having all those films filled out, that is very, very important because it shows your level of professionalism. Okay. If you are detail oriented enough to get these things done, to make sure that your best foot is forward, then you're going to be someone who's an asset to the festival, someone who's going to repost posts or celebrate their acceptance if they get it. Someone who's going to write a thank you letter, someone who's going to bring a friend to the festival, somebody who cares, and having engagement is really, really important. And your first sign of your professionalism, your first impression that you make on someone is your submission form. Sorry, I got paper. I'm not dealing with an expensive teleprompter. And then number five, it helps with promotion. Um, there's people who walk up to me all the time in the grocery store. Hey, Michael, you got a film festival coming up? Oh yeah, yeah, we're gonna have a film festival in 2 weeks. Yeah, tell me about some of the films. Well, I try to give them the website, have them go and read about some of the films. But sometimes when it's memorable to me, it's like, you know what? We got a film specifically made for this group or this current event that's happening in the news right now. It's very, very relevant to it. During COVID, we had COVID films. During the Ukraine invasion, we had Ukraine films. During the economic downturn in 2008, we had films about that. We every step of our history, we have had films that come back reflecting those events at that time, and it's a very interesting thing because people want to watch stuff that's current. They don't want to watch stuff that's been in the can forever, right? So those five things should really, really help you out in the future and inspire you to finish up your director statement. And here's a couple of sentences or phrases that I think that you should keep in mind. You might start it out, I made this film because, or I made the screenplay because, or I wrote the screenplay because. That's always a good place to start. Or the story was inspired by, right? Maybe you finally saw Fight Club after you kept hearing your dad talk about it. And you're like, oh my goodness, that film is so different. It's so cool. I'm going to make something that's like that, even though it's 20 years old, right? Um, Creatively, I wanted to explore. That's always a good one, right? I hope audiences walk away with feeling or understanding blank. Like those are good things. I'm going to put those five things or four quick ways to start. I'm going to put those in the description, so you can maybe use those as starters for your director statement. And in closing, I just want to say, as a film festival director, somebody who watches films all the time, a company that manages 12 film festivals in the U.S., that most of them happen multiple times a year, done almost 200 events since 2008. I encourage you to always take that extra step and make sure that you are completing your forms, completing everything, putting your best foot forward, get accepted to a film festival, say thank you, be gracious. If someone posts about you, make a comment, be gung ho about it, and you'll have a better experience. You'll get your money's worth. This process is expensive for some people. I remember back in the day sending $50 checks and $75 checks out to film festivals and getting nothing back, but it flipped from selected to not selected, and that's a painful thing to not even know what's wrong when you're sending out those things. And the other thing that's unique about our company is we do have feedback forms available, whether you're accepted or not. We have a judges scorecard system, and if you go to filmfestivalcircuit.com, you can learn more about it. And if you check out the link in the description, you can learn more about it. And that way, you can be prepared on the circuit. And every single festival, you should get better and better and better, and get stronger and stronger and stronger. And hopefully, we'll be on the road to winning awards. And hopefully, I'll get to see you at one of our events. All of our events are always live and never virtual, so they're always in a facility and at a theater. So I hope I see you in either Austin, Portland, or Atlanta, where our film festivals are. So thanks again. My name is Michael Fair. You can hit me up, michael.fair@filmfestivalcircuit.com. Talk to you soon.